I'm Patricia Greenberg, and you're listening to Eat Well, Live Well, Age Well, where we talk about all things aging well. And all we seem to talk about these days is aging, and like it's a disease or a problem that needs to go away or something that needs to be cured. I personally love that I'm aging. I do my best on a daily basis to keep up with what I need to for my health and my wellness, my intellectual development. But most importantly, I have come to, just kind of realize that with age, you grow, you change, and in a lot of ways, that's a way to keep you open and to keep you engaged in the world. And rather than saying, I'm getting older and therefore I can't, let's say I'm getting older, therefore I can. Yes, there's certain things you can't do, but there's a lot of things you can do, and you can give up your old ways of life. You can give up old attitudes. You can even change professions, pick up new hobbies. I mean, this is all we discuss here is what can you do to make aging the very, very best it could be, really up until any age. I'm thrilled to have with me today Karry Schafer. She's an author, a mindset coach, and what she calls herself an author genie, the term author genie, which we're going to get to later. And she is also an advocate of all things aging well. But what struck me when I met Karry is her calm demeanor. And I even commented on her, you don't seem stressed out or you don't seem nervous or worried. And she just said, no, I'm not. I'm not anymore. And she just, for me, appears to be the poster child for staying calm as we navigate the uncertainty of getting old. Welcome, Karry.
Hi, I am so happy to have this new chance to talk to you.
See, every day's a new opportunity, a new person that you
Absolutely.
meet. So starting off, tell us what you do a lot of things, which is really part of the conversation. That maybe you can tell us a little bit about your old life and your new life. So why don't we start there, actually?
Old life and new life.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, I spent much of my life actually being pretty anxious and wound pretty tight, to be honest. I have worked as a registered nurse. I have been a mental health professional. I did years of crisis response, which is partly what taught me to calm down and chill because the things we think of are huge emergencies, really, generally in the grand scheme of things, are not that big a deal. Um, so I did a few years back. I had one of my books became quite successful, and I was able to get up the nerve to take the plunge to quit the day job and to just kind of venture out into being a writer and an entrepreneur. And it has
Wow.
been
Wow.
fantastic and awesome.
That's a big step. I love what you said that because I always tell people, because I used to get hysterical about everything, and I say, if your heart is beating and you're breathing, it's not an emergency.
Yeah, you learn that. I think
Yeah.
that's one of the good things about getting older is you learn as you go along. It was shortly after I first quit nursing, the first time I went back and did it again for a while, but I'm very stressed as a nurse. It is life and death,
Oh,
and
yeah.
I'm
Oh,
kind
yeah.
of scatterbrained because
Hmm.
I'm an artistic sort of personality, and I was terrified that I'd have my head out in the clouds and kill somebody someday. So I was working in a little secretarial temporary position, and the first day was crazy busy. And at the end, the person who was responsible for me was apologizing. I'm so sorry. And I was like, I was just laughing. Nobody was going to die, I
Yeah.
said.
Yeah.
No, it's no
Yeah.
big deal.
Yeah.
So
It's
it helps.
It's the best attitude to have. So, tell us about, so you're a mindset coach. Tell us a little bit about that and what you do.
Okay, so mindset basically is just the way that you think about things. If it makes perfect sense. Um, People who are into things like athletics are very familiar with mindset. Team people and professional sporters, we call them sporters at our
Right.
house. Sporting, they were sporting very hard, we say.
Yeah.
You can tell we're not really into the sports thing, but they have mindset coaches and they spend a lot of time with that winning mindset. And you'll see that with, high powered professionals a lot also. But every part of our lives is affected by mindset. And I started really getting into that with writing, in that I am a writer, and a lot of my writer friends struggle with the inner critic and procrastination and all of that stuff. And I started looking at, well, how can we consciously pay attention to our mindset, change that, and focus on being positive and productive rather than looking at the negative side of things?
Do you work mainly with, when I say older people, I guess a mature adult, a fully formed adult, rather than, is
Yeah, fully formed adults. It's
there a such
interesting.
thing?
I honestly, I have friends of every age. I
Yeah.
have friends who are half my age. I have friends who are a lot older than me. I was going to say twice my age, but I'm old enough now that that's not really true anymore. Just interesting people who are like-minded, but mature, being, yes, old enough to be on their own, generally adults in the
Yeah, because
world.
I'd
But
imagine somebody younger probably wouldn't come to you because they know it. We all know it all, right? We know better than the older people. We have this stereotype, Kerry, and you and I know better, especially since we're there. We're over 50, okay? I'm just going to say over 50. So we have the stereotype of the older adult in our mind. That's a terrible image of, frail, inactive, grumpy, and not a productive member of society. And that is a pervasive mindset that is believed even about people younger than you would think. People in their 50s, all of a sudden now, you're not really a part of, you're not contributing to society anymore. Yet, you and I in our work are seeing a revolution. We're seeing a completely different package of what we perceive to be older, and thousands of older adults are taking on new careers, hobbies, and lifestyle changes. I mean, topsy turvy, 180 from what they believed their life was going to be like when they get older. So let's talk a little bit about, I'd love to hear your insight on how hard or easy that is to do, especially after 60.
I think a lot of it again depends on your willingness to engage those automatic thoughts and get into changing them. Some of
Mhm.
it, we're programmed, and you and I had talked about this earlier. We're programmed from a very young age in a lot of ways, and it tends to be on autopilot. Now, I'm very lucky in that the old people in my life, old people, quote
Mhm.
unquote, what does that even mean anymore? Older people were very active. My grandfather, I love this story. He was in his 80s and he was trying to get my father to finance him to go to Bolivia to begin a deer farming venture.
Wow.
Yes, his 80th birthday was also when he decided he should learn to play the piano before he got too old. So I had this from my childhood growing up. And so a lot of me has always been, I can still do all kinds of things. I'm going to be old and I'm going to be active. But the ageism thing it's one of the things that makes me angry. Actually, it's one of
Right.
my pet peeves. And as a writer, you will very often find me putting at least one very, very feisty, very active, very smart, very full of their life older person into my books because I'm trying to counteract that belief system that we've somehow
Yeah.
inherited. Life is over at 50 or something. No.
I'm going to do a pause because there's a plane flying over my house. Okay, we'll take that out. Um, so what do you say is the best approach to leaving that attitude behind?
I think it's first off being aware. So a lot of this just becomes with becoming aware and then challenging your own beliefs. I like the idea of taking your beliefs to court, kind of. This is something I got from being a mental health professional, is the idea that you can then take that belief and go, well, how true is this really? If this were a court case, let's present the evidence. So, oh, look, there's a whole bunch of older people out there who are running marathons, who are doing athletic acrobatics. I've seen
Sure. Hmm.
dancing, climbing mountains, learning new things, publishing books. I have friends who have published their first book after 60. So if you start looking for evidence, and this is the biggest and best way to change your mind, is to open your eyes to the possibility that it's not all the way that you thought it was. And then as you open to that, then you begin to see more and more and more. And as you realize other people are doing it, it's like, maybe I could do that too.
It's funny because attitudes about age, as well as race, gender, the way we see the world, and I did extensive research on this, seems to get formed between 0 and 5. Those first couple of years of your life is where you absorb like a sponge, as you know, you grow in lightning speed at that age. And then the next chunk of time is like between 5 and adolescence. And we become what we think is formed. We form these attitudes and we form these ideas. When you work with people, do you go back to where they were at that age group? Is that, you could say to me till the cows come home, you know, Pat, you're at an age where you've got to do A, B, and C. But if I have it in my mind, you're not supposed to be doing that when you're older. Is that, how do you work with that obstacle of somebody who truly believes you have to eat an apple a day and 3 servings of dairy and go to bed at 9 o'clock, and it's inappropriate to wear shorts after 35, and all these things we that we have ingrained in our minds because they're still there, even though we live in a modern world. They're still there with everybody.
Right. I don't spend a lot of time going back into the past. You can, but you tend to get there so much back there. You can
Yeah.
get all mired down. Trying to counteract a belief if somebody doesn't want it countered is not going to be helpful, really,
Okay.
honestly, because what happens, this, you get in a conversation with somebody believes A, you believe B, you get into a conversation, the more you talk, the more you still believe your thing, they still believe theirs, and we're all entrenched. So just thinking more in terms of what would I like to believe? What if? I love what if questions. What
Right.
if? What if it was okay for me to wear whatever I wanted? What if it really didn't matter? What if that person who posts that thing about what not to wear after 50
Yes.
is
Yeah.
really, full of something that I guess I won't say online. What if? So start asking those little kind of mind opening questions, or how would it feel? How would it feel to believe that it was okay for you to? Or what would you do if you knew life was going to end like next week and you weren't expecting to live for 30 years and in a nursing home? I mean, one of the things that was helpful for me, I think, was really honestly a tragedy in my life, which was the very, very sudden and tragic death of my husband just before I turned 40. But what that did for me was really wake me up to, I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. I might not ever get old. A tree might fall on my head. So I'm going to have a whole lot of fun now before all of that happens, if it happens. And then happiness is this magical, if there's a elixir of youth, that's it. Being, fulfilled, happy, vibrant, feeling like you have meaning and validity and all of that. Those things are what keep us going. And the people that, I bet if you did a study, anybody who's healthy and active well into their elder years has got something that they believe in or enjoy doing that they're still passionate about.
I love this, that happiness is the magic bullet for
Absolutely.
keeping. I hear that over and being happy calms your body down.
Yeah.
Actually,
Oh,
right? It has such a, just smiling and laughing, and you've heard the stories of people who were ill to sit down and watch a comedy, right, or something. You
right.
get so lost in the comedy, you forget, and it really works your system into understanding what it feels like to relax your shoulders, take a deep breath, and be happy. Because a lot of the advice we're given about relaxing our bodies is work. Yoga
Yeah.
is wonderful, exercise is wonderful, but it's always like close your eyes, breathe deep, and put your hands here. And then there's all these rules and regulations about how to be happy, right? Rather than
Right.
just being happy.
Right. And
Um,
it really, and I'd like to say I've gotten into meditation lately, and I very strongly recommend, like, it's just like 15 or 20 minutes a day. But even so, even that, it's
mhm.
work when you start. When you first begin, it's a little bit tricky to, make yourself sit there and focus. Once you do it for a little bit, though, I've got to say this is really, really worth the time. I really also, another thing I'm very much into is something called EFT, which is emotional freedom technique, which is meridian tapping. And so what we're finding is that, and this is not work, it's really easy, just by tapping on some acupressure points on your body and saying some, actually talking through the beliefs that you would like to change as you do so, really, really has this amazing effect of toning down your holding on to those beliefs, your attachment to them, and allows you to begin to shift to something else that you would rather believe. And it really, and this has been actually scientifically studied, drops that anxiety level and
That's
lowers
amazing. I've
lowers
heard
the
of it. Will
levels
you
of stress
actually,
hormones.
you tap shoulder or points on your body? Tell us a little bit
Actually,
about it.
the main points, I can show them to you really quickly.
Sure.
The first one is here.
Okay, right here.
This and then there's one here.
Here. Okay.
And here,
And here.
under the eye, I always take my glasses off when I'm really going to do this. Under the nose,
Mm-hmm.
under the mouth, collarbones, and then the monkey spot under the arm,
Under the arm.
and the top of the head.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very simple. 15 minutes, just it feels good when you're done. You know, it's not a painful thing. I am a very, very strong recommender of, there's an app actually called the Tapping Solution. They got a bunch of free stuff. I have the paid version, but and no, they don't pay me to be their spokesman.
Okay,
And I don't get any
okay.
kickbacks. I'm just saying, nope, they should, because I talk
I'm going
about
to
them
add
all
that
the
onto our
time.
notes. The tapping solution.
The Tapping
Okay.
Solution.
All right. And that's so good to know because anything that releases negative energy is positive, right?
Absolutely. Well, and this helps to shift beliefs too. So you were talking about that. How do we change those beliefs? And so it is a good way to pick one of those beliefs. Like, you know, I really firmly believe that I cannot ever wear, you know, whatever anymore. Or, okay, me, for example, I should cut my hair. I believe that a woman over 55 should definitely not have long hair, but I kind of would like to keep it anyway. You know, you kind of tap through that, bring it down, and then
Okay.
you do a shift. What if it's okay to have the long hair? What if it doesn't really matter what anybody else thinks? What if it's okay to just be me and do what I want? And so you tap down the old thing and the anxiety, and then you can bring up the change that you would like to start moving into.
I just put up a post on my Facebook page that something, I have to go back and look, something to the effect of what not to wear after 30. 30, I mean, that's a child to me. What not to wear after 30 is a belief system that people you and stop caring about what people think. So that's what we all need to stop wearing is the shame and the belief and the caring about what other people think of us. I'm
Right.
Patricia Greenberg. You're listening to Eat Well, Live Well, Age Well on YouTube, and now's a good time to subscribe to my page to get onto my channel. Patricia Greenberg, also known as a fitness gourmet. My guest today is Karry Schafer, and we are talking about aging well, being productive, and changing your attitude and making later in life the best years of your life. You can find her at All Things Karry.
Uh-huh. All things Kerry with a K.
All things Karry with a
Kerry.
K, KERRY.com. Karry, you're a prolific author, and how many books have you written?
Um, written, published. I always keep forgetting. I think
Lose
I'm on
count.
number, lucky number 13. I'm
Okay.
calling it, is coming out in October of this year.
Very nice. So please go to her website, www.allthingskarry.com. And what is your genre that you write about?
I write in two genres. That's why it's All Things Kerry, because I actually write as Kerry Schafer and also as Kerry Ann King, who is my more successful self as far as publishing goes. So Kerry Schafer began by writing fantasy and weirdly quirky, wonderful paranormal mysteries. I have so much fun with these. Speaking of my main character in these paranormal mysteries is turning 60 as the series begins. And I was told that I would not be able to find a traditional publisher for this book because she was too old. So I've done a Mindy, and they're just fun. I like her very much. So it happens. That's a thing for sure.
That you write about it.
Yeah.
And it should be, I think it should be everywhere. You know what I love to do, Karry, is on my binging at night, I'm an avid knitter. I exercise, I'm running around all day during the day, but at night I like to just sit down, watch a movie, have a glass of wine, and I knit. And I'm just obsessed with all these movies about the second time around, about people finding love in their 50s, 60s, 70s. I love, there's a whole bunch of movies out now that are taking place in like assisted living facilities or widows and widowers finding somebody else later in life, and they're wonderful, beautiful stories. And sex is just a part of it. It
Right.
should be a wonderful part of it, but it's part of it. Okay, now you're
Thursday
back
Murder
on.
Club. Older people.
I'm sorry?
Yeah, I'm getting the message that my internet is unstable again.
All right. So we'll keep going because then I could have a Jay edit it. We're good. We're going to keep going, keep moving forward. I'll take out any blips. So Karry, tell us about you. You're an author, Genie. Tell us about what that is.
Author Genie is me magically behind the scenes doing things for other authors that they either don't want to do, don't know how to do, or don't have time to do. So it's, as an author, there's all of this other stuff. You just want to write books, but there's marketing and there's social media and newsletters. And, if you're doing indie stuff, getting your books formatted and getting them up on the platforms, all that sort of thing, which I then get to do for other authors, which is great fun because then I meet these wonderful people I get to hang out with and I get to help them make their dreams come true, which is always wonderful and fun. It's a fabulous way to make money and spend my life, really. I have a rule now. I'm not doing anything if it's not fun. So
Good for you. Wow. I wish I was there. I just cut everything out of my life that I'm not enjoying. I think that's something to strive for as well, right? I mean, just to
yeah.
really um, myself, I've written 4 books and I'm struggling with my fifth right now because it's a new genre. It's fiction. It's a completely different animal than 'cause I'm so used to researching, putting it all together, then sending it out to an editor and they tell me what sounds good and what doesn't and what's accurate and what isn't. And now I'm in a whole different mindset. Thousands of people, Carrie, if not millions, say they have a book in them. Do you think everybody is capable of writing a book?
I think we're all capable of writing a book. I think that writing a book and publishing a book are two very, very different animals. And so I just want to make that clear. Publishing is a business. And so there's an element there that becomes a very different thing from the creative process. So I think anybody who wants to write a book and wants to spend the time, absolutely you can do that. Writing can be learned. Some people do it more naturally. It's like music. Anybody can learn to play basic songs on the piano, and then there are gifted musicians. And so there are some people who are going to write things that are going to be absolutely amazing and blow us all out of the water. And some of us are going to write our life story and share it with friends. It's just kind of depends on where you are and what you want to do. But yeah, writing is awesome. Anybody should, journaling is
Yes.
another fabulous thing, by the way, along with the meditation and the tapping and the laughing and all of those things for getting your mindset into a more positive place.
Where do you get your inspiration from?
Everywhere. Everywhere. That's so funny. People always ask me that. Ideas come to me from, I'll be watching TV and I'll get an idea. I'm talking to somebody, I read a news story, I see a little something on Instagram, I'm listening to a song. It's like, oh my
Right.
God, there's a story there all the time, everywhere.
So I always say there's room for everybody in this world, right? Whatever your aspirations are, whatever you want to try, even if it's a smaller scale than you had originally planned on, there's something for everyone. There's a much bigger, whatever you believe in, there's a much bigger, higher power that allows us to be here and be whole human beings and live life to the fullest. What advice do you have for people who are scared to take that plunge?
Take a baby steps, baby steps. I
Okay.
first off, before I talk anymore, I have to take back, you said be a whole human being. And I think that's the key. That's the secret. That's really
Right.
what we're here to
Right.
do and be, is be whole human beings. And so the fear that gets in the way, one of the easiest ways to get past that is to take such tiny, tiny little steps that it doesn't trigger your fear. So, let's take that whole idea again of stepping outside in shorts. Maybe we're not ready for that, but maybe we can make a tiny, tiny little change. Maybe we can wear something that's a little younger than we think we should be wearing, but not so much that it triggers all of our, oh my God, I can't go out like this in public. Whatever, if you want to start writing, maybe you just start writing a little bit in a journal every
Mm.
day before you move on to trying to write a novel, or just a tiny little baby step, 5 minutes, something you can do in 5 minutes or less, something really tiny, something that doesn't trigger all of the fear factors. And then it's this little tiny increments. Today I do this little step, tomorrow I do this.
Again, it's one of those things like being in emergency or crisis mode. Like if you step outside in a pair of shorts and nothing happens, the world didn't come to an end and you weren't struck dead by lightning. Well, wait a second. Actually, nothing happened. I did it and nothing happened. And that's a
Right.
good thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
I always say
Yeah.
that, people, what's a beach body? And I live in Los Angeles, which is like, um, a beach body is putting your bathing suit on and going to the beach, right?
Yeah.
So many
Yes.
people, especially women, miss the experience of being out in the water and the beauty of being at the shoreline or going hiking in the woods or going, you think you can't and you're just missing out on a big chunk of what's
Right.
going on in the world because of afraid of putting on shorts or a swimsuit or something like that. So
Right.
yeah,
I've
this is,
I've been very helped by, I was born with a strong internal rebel. So even though I was, mostly compliant as a child, mostly in all the big ways, never gotten any really big trouble.
Mhm.
I have always had the idea of, who really are you to get to tell me what I can and
Right,
can't do?
right.
And basically any convention that tells me I can't do something, I'm pretty much going to go, yeah, watch me.
Yeah, good for you. I think that's a wonderful, wonderful trait. It gets beaten down when you're a child that people don't want you to be a rebel or different or stand out or just not conform to it. But as you get older, it's one of those things I think as we age, we need to tap into
Oh
and
yeah,
stop
absolutely. See,
conforming. Hmm.
high school was horrible, trying to conform and not, when you're a creative, sort of quirky person like me, trying to fit into how
Yes.
you think you're supposed to be is really hard. And then
Yeah.
somewhere along the line, you discover that things work out really better if you just stop trying to be everybody else and just be you.
Yeah,
And
like
again,
let's
that's
all
one of those benefits.
exactly. Let's all stop trying so hard to not be who we really are, our authentic
Right.
selves.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
That's talk about work. That takes so much work trying to be somebody that you are not.
Exactly. That's exhausting. Lies and secrets and not being who you are is way more exhausting than being who you are. And we have this terrible
Absolutely.
misconception it's the other way around. Kerry, so thank you so much. In closing, I want to ask you, what do you like about getting older?
Everything. I like really honestly, we talked about you could not pay me to go back and be 20 again. I would not do it for $1 million. I love that I really am at a point where I don't care so much about what other people think. And I know who I am and I am free to pursue those things. That's a wonderful, freeing and exciting time for me. And it's the best.
Yeah, I'm so happy to hear that you're happy and you're getting happier every day and moving forward and doing all these projects. And I can't wait to see what you have coming up next. And for the audience, please go visit Kerry at www.allthingskerry, Kerry.com. And thank all of you so much for joining us.